Hey, what's up? It's your boy BobbySapphire, and today I've got my Cunning KTOD shirt on because we're going to talk about the man, the myth, the guy that's starting to take over the hard control portion of the meta alongside Bosk. It's Cunning Palpatine. Let's check it out. Before we get started, I also wanted to say that this video is also a blog post over at the KTOD Patreon. It is for subscribers only, but for cheaper than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you get this video as a blog post, 18 deck lists that we just dropped to the $5 tier, Discord access with deck threads for every single leader you might want to play at an event. If you've ever thought about checking it out, now is an absolute great time. Take you through the end of the year. We're going to be dropping all sorts of crazy content leading up to our Road to Worlds tour and PQ season. All right, if you've been following the KTOD since set 1, you know I've been trying to make Palp Yellow happen for a while, and I know I'm trying to make Fetch happen here. But after the results of the last few weeks, Cunning Palp is actually seemingly in a great position. Sabine is a little by the wayside, Control is up, Palp wants to face mid-range and control decks. He's great into all these decks, right? We have tons of gameplay that we can watch to study from, and we have a bunch of sources from the players who've been playing Cunning Palp in the meta as well. One reason why I haven't sleeved up Palp Yellow in an event, beyond that there are just so few events, it's just its terrible Sabine matchup, and there's so much Sabine in my meta, especially played by some of the better players that are around New England. So it's really precarious. It's spooky for me to sleeve him up when, like, I know I'm going into, almost like an impossible matchup a lot of the time. So one of the things that I've tried to do as the deck has continued to evolve and more sets have come out, more cards have come out, is figure out what from the new sets and the new cards might help stave off this matchup. And one of the things that I've taken a look at and really found successful, probably the most successful of all the versions I've tested, it's Underworld Start. All right, so with the coming of set 2, we got a ton of new Underworld units for Palp Yellow. And not only that, but we now have a full suite. We can run 9 one-cost Underworld units that we can turn 1 McClunky something with, which is really great. Kintan Intimidator is a card that I had mostly written off until the McClunky Gaming guys ran him in their Boba Green, and probably some other players too. But that kind of got me to take notice and say, okay, now we can actually run this in Palp. This tap effect that we're seeing with Django, it's really good with Kintan Intimidator. So now we've got 9 1-drops that we can use with McClunky. And then, of course, we have Bazine, who's just incredible. Gamorrean Retainer, who's pretty good, but he's got that 3 attack, which we really crave in these colors. And then can also have Sentinels sometimes. And then the Merc Gunship if we want to be in space. So we have a really robust all Underworld start. All work really well with McClunky, right? Even if we play Bazine, we can McClunky at the start of turn 2 and then redrop her to take their hand away again. What I really loved about set 3 is now there are 2 of them. Now there are 2 of them allows these guys not only to be McClunky enablers, not only are they just pretty good units on the board for the most part, but now they can set up a turn 2 5-drop play. And that is one of the backbreaking things that if we can turn on versus Sabine, we can start to take over the board a lot more smoothly than we normally do, which is play off our back foot. But a turn 2, Syndicate Lackeys can kill something on turn 2 and then still be around on turn 3 for killing Sabine or maybe even trading with a K2. And then because now there are 2 of them works with 5-drops into 7-drops as well, or 4-drops into 6-drops, there's a lot of ways we can play this card to make it really strong in Palpatine. For one, we get the Bosk and the Syndicate Lackeys online early. But then after that, we can get Maul and Cad Bane online a lot quicker when we play this late game. Why do we want to do this in Palpatine? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, Palpatine affords us extra draw, right? So we might more easily draw into some of these combos, especially the later game ones. And then secondly, Palpatine being able to sack our own units allows us very easily to get to the point where we control exactly 1 unit for that first part of the card. Now there are 2 of them because you do have to have only 1 unit in play. So Palp allows us to turn that on, and these incredible colors have excellent 5-drops, excellent 7-drops, cards that take over the game completely. And that's not just against Sabine, but that's against any deck. Any mid-range pile is going to get blown out by Maul and Cad Bane. And by the time that they can recover, you'll be progressing a lot quicker towards your late game. We're going to talk about that later, but this is one of the most insurmountable late games of all the Star Wars Unlimited decks. So I really like now there are 2 of them in a fully Underworld package, but this isn't the only way to build the deck. There are several. We also got a slew of new Separatist units that work great in Palp. One of the best is Poggle the Lesser. 2-drop official 1/4 means he's probably going to stick around unless your opponent really, really wants it gone. Whenever you play a unit, you get to exhaust them, create a battle droid token. You turn on having more units for Palpatine to kill and throw into other units, dealing damage to them. One of the things that's really a strategic way for you to battle against Palpatine decks is to kill all the units so they can't sacrifice and draw a card. With Poggle, you don't run out of guys, and you don't burn your own cards. You burn essentially free cards that aren't in your deck, so you can continue to keep a big hand up. P-38 Starfighter is an amazing one because he pings when he comes in, he pings when he dies, and when you combine that with the palp trigger, you get 3 damage just from this one ship. And so you get to kill something that has 3 health just by playing and sacrificing this. But, you might be able to swing into something and kill something with the 3 damage from its attack. Maybe that lives, but maybe it trades up. I know that one thing I've been doing a lot with P-38 is taking when my opponent plays a wing leader on their A-wing, P-38 just kills it altogether. It does 1 damage coming in, it hits it for 3, and it does 1 damage going out. Confederate Courier, another one, a great 2-drop. It's also a Separatist. It also leaves a battle droid behind when you throw it, so it can start attacking. It can even hit an A-wing, drop a battle droid, and sacrifice the battle droid to do the 3rd damage to the A-wing. B1 Security Team is a little more precarious in this meta. There's so much unit ping out of leaders that I don't highly recommend him in the current meta. But if there's ever an opportunity for you to play a 2-cost Sentinel with 3 attack, I mean, we'd get another one. It's Separatist. It turns on all of the guys on the right. So, sorry, this way I'm mirrored. Droid Commando, Separatist Commando, and Infiltrating Demolisher, Bactoid Spider Droid, all these things get better with other Separatist units, and then with Bactoid Spider Droid and the Demolisher, those things exploit. So anything with a death trigger, like Confederate Courier or the P-38, or maybe you just want to sack those tokens that they make, we can build sort of an awesome Separatist version of the deck that has a really great early game. It does not have a great late game for things like, now there are 2 of them, so you probably don't want to run that in a version like this. But like I said, Poggle is an official, so you can play other officials, play ERGs, and then just do your normal sort of like Vader, Maul, Bosk, Syndicate Lackey mid-game, and have like just an awesome early game that draws a lot of cards and spits out a lot of guys. And the other way to build the early game for this deck is to just go all official. With the addition of Poggle and Favorable Delegate, we get all kinds of card draw, we get all kinds of engine starting, and we get all kinds of officials. With Yularen, Scanning Officer, Poggle, and Favorable, we can actually play just 12 officials, meaning we can pretty aggressively mulligan for ERG. And then also Cobb Vanth has shown great value. Not only is he a 3/2 that can attack for 3, turn on ERG, but you can sack him and play another unit. That's a great way to get your Poggle out, your Scanning Officer out, your Yularen out, or even your Bazines out if you want to throw Bazines in anyway. So this is a really great, not an engine, but it's a really great way to have the full complement of 3/5 Sentinel turned on with these Palp decks. This deck also has a great middle game. These are all cards that we used in Boba Fett to absolutely take over the middle part of the game. And what we can do with Palp is push our opponents into a later part of the game. We can use Bounce, Tap, and Ramp. We can kill them with Bosk, Syndicate Lackeys, or Overwhelming Barrage. What we want to do in the middle portion of this game, after we've sort of stabilized, is just push it as quickly as we can to 7 and 8 resources. Those are the turns that are going to allow us to fully stabilize and flip the script and start attacking base, ending the game as quickly as possible. This deck has just the craziest late game. Look at all these bombs. From card-stealing cards like Change of Heart and Choose Sides to Vader, Maul, and Cad Bane 7-drops who absolutely obliterate opponents and build our board or reduce our opponents. Reinforcement Walker who does both. He can draw us cards, he can heal us life. Relentless shuts down other cards, shuts other decks down completely. This is like one of the biggest reasons why we can battle against hard control decks like Blue Bosk. And then the Devastator, just 10-10 overwhelm ship. I mean, can end the game in just a couple of swings. The great thing about building this deck out is that because we have so much card draw, because we have so much card ramp, and because we have such a robust early and mid game on its own, we can put like a ton of these bombs into our late game and into our deck. We can resource them. We know we're going to draw more later. Once we hit that 7 resource turn, we can start using these things pretty aggressively to take over the game. Taking a unit with Change of Heart and then, sacrificing it with Palpatine is just a really easy way to get to the Palp flip turn. Vader, Maul, Cad Bane all do the same. We're just trying to get to the Palp flip. The Palp flip allows us to fully stabilize. We've taken probably a couple of their units at this point, or we've killed a bunch with these bombs. We're ready to drop some Star Destroyers and absolutely shut down the game. One of the most challenging things about playing Palpatine is knowing when to flip him. This is a really difficult puzzle to kind of solve. In a lot of decks, we're so far behind, we're just going to flip and take the only damaged thing on the board and try and use it to kill something else and stabilize by dropping our bombs. In other games, we know that our opponent is meant to go long too, so we need to save it for maybe not the perfect unit, but if we don't really have any other ways to deal with Crate Dragons, we shouldn't be flipping our Palp before they drop their Crate Dragon unless we absolutely have to. Now, there's a little bit of a push and pull here because there are games where I've certainly lost with Palpatine decks where I want to capture the perfect unit and my opponent never gives it to me. Maybe they bounce it, maybe they find a way to kill it before I can flip. Maybe they just push damage or heal while I'm trying to set up something like, stealing an Obi-Wan or something like that. The best thing you can do is get reps on Palpatine decks and figure out which matchups you need to steal things and which ones you can wait. You don't want to flip in a Palp mirror before someone plays a Devastator, right? You want to play your Devastator, they play a Devastator, you steal. You want to be ahead in that matchup. Another thing you can do to sort of like get you there is play Recursion like Palpatine's Return. We'll talk about that when we talk about sideboards, but you need to figure out exactly when to flip. Against aggro, often flipping early, especially when we haven't fully stabilized, is the best thing we can do. Palp's an official. He can turn on ERG by himself. He steals something, he throws something. He can start letting you attack into their units and really pare their board down. But more often than not, we need to save him for the other thing that we can't deal with, like a Crate Dragon or a Devastator. So I would get reps, as many as you can, and try and figure out what those matchups are. If you have a thought about a matchup and a deck that you would wait on flipping Palp for, let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, y'all, I found it. The deck that can run the infinite combo in the sideboard. All of these cards work in conjunction to go off infinitely. You can attack with Sand Hill, ready your resources, replay your Trench, replay your Mahdi, eat them, have Sand Hill untap more resources. This is an involved combo, and you need a lot of resources, so this would really only work in a control mirror. But in a control mirror where you're just drawing cards, sacking guys, you can potentially get a Trench, Sandhill, Mahdi, and either a second Trench or a clone in your hand, have enough resources to combo infinitely by having Sandhill untap and looping the trenches, right? So you exploit one Trench to play the other, attack with Sandhill, ready the resources, play Admiral Mahdi, eat it with Trench, and do it again. This is only going to work in a control mirror. It's only going to work when you have like 11 resources. But in those decks, they aren't necessarily trying to pursue a winning game state early. You can do this simply by getting them to claim somehow and going off. It's pretty interesting. I haven't tried it yet because I don't know anyone who wants to test post-board Blue Bosk versus Palp mirrors, or not mirrors, but matches. But I do think that if there was ever a spot in an actual meta deck to play the infinite combo, it is this one in the sideboard. If looking for some less spicy sideboard options, I really like Palpatine's Return, Bounty Hunter Crew, Shadowed Intentions. All these cards give us some recursion, let us never run out of gas, and we can always present that late game over and over, just dropping bombs every single turn until our opponent runs out of answers. The other thing we can do is play discard in our sideboard. Things like Unmasking the Conspiracy, Political Pressure, Spark of Rebellion. They're all targeted discard. Well, Political Pressure is random, but a lot of times they don't want to take the random discard, so we get some Battle Droid tokens out. It fuels Palpatine's sack effect. It can also fuel some of those exploit cards that we talked about earlier in the video. So if I was trying to build out a sideboard, I would either be adding things from the previous slides that we don't already have max of, things like Relentless, Devastator, Mauls or something, or I would be adding these things. All right, I want to take a look at some decks that people have been running in the meta and doing really well with. This is Rando Mando, who did great at multiple SCG events in Columbus. He came in second in the Sunday 1K, but he had a great showing altogether. His video is linked in the YouTube description, as well as a match from the stream that McClunky Gaming did over the course of the weekend against Django Tarkentown. What Rando Mando has here is like a pretty good mix of all the different units we've talked about earlier today, and even a spicy trader is thrown in. But he's got a mix of officials and Underworld units early. He's got ERGs, he's got ramp, he's got bounce, he's got change of hearts, and he's got that late game that we talked about. 6 full 7 drops, as well as 2 reinforcement walkers and 2 devastators. He's rocking main deck change of hearts as well. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about also in the sideboard, just more of the same in terms of like, you know, big units, but then he's got the recursion and Palp's return. He's got a Bosk. He's even got a Fell the Dragon and some extra tapping in Cartel Spacer to go along with his 3 No Good To Me Deads. And then I want to take a look at Yehusera, who came in second at the UK OPE event that took place a couple weekends ago. He lost, and it was a pretty spicy end game for him. He's got 3 Devastators, 3 Reinforcement Walkers, 2 Mauls, 3 Vaders, 3 Change of Hearts. So he is doing that thing that I mentioned in the late game, which is just play all kinds, like just huge numbers of bombs. And you can see, like, other than Overwhelming Barrage and 2 Bosks, he doesn't have any other 4 and 5 drops. He's looking to ramp. He's looking to play. He's got a lot of the officials and the separatists from in his early game, and then in the board he's got a lot of the stuff that we talked about: discard, recursion, more Cad Banes, or I guess he doesn't have any main deck Cad Banes right now, but you can check his metafy.gg sort of breakdown. It's a course, basically like what he did for the event and where he would go forward. That's also linked in the description, so you should definitely check that out. And while I do want you to go take a look at Yehusera's course on Metafy, I think that's a great resource. I think more people should be using Metafy for this game. I did want to just drop his updated list that he does link in his article. You can see some of the changes here. He goes up to a full complement of reinforcement walkers while cutting a devastator. He mainly keeps the same early game, but he's got sneak attack instead of timely. He's gone up to a 3rd Bosk. You know, I'm sure you'll learn a lot from checking out his video and not checking out his Metafy course and seeing his explanations, but I did want to drop that list for you so you had something here. All right, so these are the extra resources that I mentioned in the video that you can check out in the description. We've got Yehusera's OPE course on Metafy, and we got Rando Mando and Star Wars Dad dropping video deck techs about Cunning Palp. And remember, you can subscribe to the KTOD Patreon to get my Cunning Palp list that's fully Underworld, see me play it sometimes in the Discord, and also this video was posted as a blog post for all our subscribers. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Check you next time.